All right, so recently on Calling All Minions, we dealt with this image here. And then of course, now I'm receiving a phone call. I'll be right back. All right, shut up, okay? It's the default ringtone, I just haven't gotten around to changing it. So, like I was saying, this image here, right? And it looks pretty cool. Security forces will search for stolen and illicit items and respond appropriately, while NPCs and shops will be able to distinguish between legitimate and stolen merchandise, of course, right? It sounds really cool, and at face value, you're gonna sit there and think, okay, great. So piracy is more or less in the game now. This is a cool functional thing. But not really. This is a piece, but this is not the foundation. There's a lot of elements that you need in order to make this thing actually work. Now, having it in place, there's a reason for it. But in the game, there's really no way to really take advantage of it, except for some small limited applications. Now, step back and look at it for a second, okay? So, in game, the shop owners, the shopkeepers, and the security forces are going to be able to recognize stolen goods. That's something that you need to have in the game, obviously. That's something that is going to, help flesh out the pirate economy and to make it much more realistic. And it's a good thing. But the foundational elements needed to really kind of take advantage of this just aren't there yet. Now, what do I mean? NPC haulers. NPC haulers, or even player haulers for that matter, hauling a large amount of cargo through space, being able to snare them, blow them up, steal their cargo, all these elements, things like tractor beams, the ability to pull somebody out of quantum or prevent them from going into quantum. These kinds of things that are parts of the game which we do not have yet, which we need in order to really kind of take advantage of this. Now, if I go down to Jumptown, I blow up somebody's ship and a whole bunch of cargo crates get strewn across the ground, and I pick them up and I try to take them to wherever, to Lorville or any other place, and they're going to say, okay, no, these are stolen, you can't do that. I'm going to have to still sit there and pick up all these crates with crime stat rating and all of that, probably, especially if I don't do it at Jumptown, if I do it someplace else. So there's probably going to be a whole host of problems for me trying to pick up that cargo, which make this kind of impractical. And then to finally get there and get shot up, it's not really something that you're going to do, right? Unless you make a really dumb series of mistakes that lead all the way to trying to take stolen goods to one of the most secure places in the system. So it's a good idea to have this kind of built in, that they can differentiate between legal and illegal goods, but the method for procuring these illegal goods, I mean, unless you're dumb enough to go and buy a whole shipload of Widow and then say, oh, I'm just going to take this to Lorville and sell it on the open market, there really isn't any way in game to really kind of take advantage of this mechanic. And I don't mean in a bad way, like exploit it, but just to use it and to flesh it out and to get some life out of it. There's a lot of things for the pirate player that we need. A lot of things like tractor beams and distortion weapons, or whatever type of weapon actually stops quantum, or the ability to straight up interdict someone else's ship. Now, we can sort of use an EMP, or we can possibly use distortion weapons to shut a ship down, but is that the extent of what interdiction is going to be? Can we interdict ships while they're mid-quantum? That sort of thing. There's a lot of pieces to the pirate career that just aren't there yet, and truth be told, if you look at the actual roadmap, they aren't forthcoming anytime soon. For right now, the limit of pirate gameplay and into the foreseeable future is pretty much going to be either causing havoc, selling Widow, or whatever, it's like, ooh, this is Slam or Nuke or whatever the new sci-fi drug name is, between that and just doing PvE missions, that's kind of the limit of pirate gameplay, with a little havoc created on the side. And if you know the PvE missions and you've been through the chains, you'll realize that very quickly. It's like, okay, I'm done all of that and I've made a little bit of money selling Widow. Now what am I going to do for the next 2 months and 3 weeks of my gameplay time? Cause havoc. Because that's pretty much it. I mean, looking into the future, there are things that kind of surround piracy on the other end of things, but there's nothing that really adds a lot of depth to piracy in the game. Now, of course, in September, we're supposed to be getting this PvP bounties, which is a little bit odd. It's like, ooh, the game generates missions to, put down these evildoers wherever they rest in the Star Citizen universe, and you can earn some money doing it too, which is a cool idea. Except we've already had this, and this has already been in game. If you got to, 5-star wanted rating, there would actually be missions generated by the game to hunt you down. There would be an open bounty on you. So I always looked at this and I kind of went, that's kind of weird, because don't we already have that? And I mean, isn't the cure to that just like, oh, guess what? There's a whole bunch of people flying around space hunting me. I guess I'll log off and hop onto another server and, crisis averted. Now I'm in a new location. I once again have wanted status, but maybe people won't pick up on it right away, and I can go around and do some things to lower that crime stat and maybe evade having to pay the price. Or I can get into a dirt cheap ship and just walk into the front of Lorville, have the police shoot me down, and then just go, oh well, guess I just reset my crime stat, and then go on and go about your business. So this has always been kind of like one of those things like, huh, okay, I guess, not really gonna matter, but if you say so. This is why, you need things that aren't sort of window dressing or garnish. There's a lot of good elements here, and there's a lot of things that obviously carry over into Squadron 42, and once Squadron 42 is out of the way, hopefully that benefits everyone. But, things like tractor beams and, interdiction, and along with that, NPC haulers, because if there's interdiction without a reasonable possibility that it's going to be an NPC that's caught instead of a player, or maybe even a higher probability that an NPC is going to get caught rather than a player, with the whole 90-10 ratio, it can create kind of a false impression of the reality of the Star Citizen universe, and you could see a lot of people just losing their shit if they're the only targets out there for this type of activity. And it's something that I think a lot of players would kind of acknowledge, that when you go out and you do stuff, you have to present a reasonable profit risk ratio, especially for the less combat oriented players. And often a lot of people, they kind of misinterpret what's going on in the PU currently, and they say, oh, well, pirates are just going to ruin the game. They're going to destroy the game. There's no one else for pirates to pay attention to in the game currently than other players, which is an unrealistic representation of how it's intended to be when it's finished, when 9 out of 10 ships flying through the universe are probably going to be NPCs. So chances are you're going to be having a lot easier time getting the things you want done, especially if you're, a little bit careful and a little bit reasonable with how you approach things, and you just kind of let the NPCs take all the heat for you, which is something that is a reasonable outcome. You think about an NPC is going to be more predictable, and piracy is in the end about profits, so chances are they're probably going to aim that way rather than at you, especially if you're playing, smartly. So you need things like that to really kind of take piracy to the next level. A new mission giver, cool. A new drug to trade in, interesting. But realistically, none of the big pieces are here to really kind of take piracy to that next level, and they're not really on the roadmap. I mean, even something like data running, which would have been cool, especially for Herald owners, or, I guess Star Runner owners, if that ever makes it onto the timetable. that has been pulled off of the timetable for, more of these things that are kind of geared towards, it works for the Star Citizen universe, but it kind of plays out for, Squadron 42 as well, and that's probably why it's there. And we know that this is a thing. Chris Roberts has outright stated that there's a lot of focus right now on working on things that kind of work with Star Citizen, but also pan out for Squadron 42, which is obviously going to release before Star Citizen is considered ready to go. So one of the reasons why you should pay attention to that Squadron 42 roadmap. There might be some interesting things in there that might have an impact on Star Citizen, but getting that game kind of out the door opens up a lot of production pipeline room to work on the things that are really going to matter for a massively multiplayer universe, rather than the single player, PvE experience universe, which is Squadron 42. Now, of course, there's two ways to kind of look at a situation like this. Of course, you can be kind of negative about it and say, oh, well, this sucks. Piracy, there's really nothing going to be in for 2019. That's remarkable, except for maybe a few extra mission givers, some different drugs to peddle, nothing much there. But there is kind of a glass is half full to this situation. There really is. In that, if you kind of take a much more kind of practical approach to things, you can say, this is a good time to really kind of lean into things and learn, how to work as a pirate in the universe, learn the different tricks that are out there, and really, use these constraints to kind of focus my efforts towards becoming a better pirate, becoming a smarter pirate, maybe not so much focusing on creating havoc, whereas maybe creating havoc and not getting caught, and learning how to survive, learning how to, work with others to kind of use a situation to get into some place like Jumptown with a group of people supporting you, so that you can go in, buy a huge load of cargo and make a lot of profit, and then kind of return the favor to those people. It's a good time to learn things like that, the basics of the game, get things nailed down, and learn to work as a member of a team. Speaking of which, especially in the EU hours, Scum is recruiting, because there are some players within our EU time zone that would like to have other people around to play with, especially the more piratical individuals out there in the universe. So, something to consider. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.